is a valuable tool that we all have to have, and not all anxiety is detrimental. I mean, a small dose is very, very helpful, as a matter of fact. If I didn't have some anxiety, I wouldn't have prepared for today. If you didn't have some anxiety about losing your job, you wouldn't show up probably. So we're going to look at what a good amount of anxiety is, and then we're going to talk about how that flooding emotion of too much anxiety can really just freeze kiddos and families in their tracks. So let's get going. What I want you to do is take this page. It looks like this: typical social emotional development and anxiety. We're going to play a little game to see how much you know about typical anxiety. So, it's just really typical social emotional development. So it looks like this. Everybody have it? Okay. So the first one is objects to major changes in routines, recognizes and responds to other children's feelings, becomes more comfortable with new people. What age range? 1 to 3 months, 13 to 18 months, 31 to 36 months? What do you think? This is hard. I will tell you, it is hard.
24 to 28.
Yeah.
31 to 36.
Both.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is more confident exploring new things and taking risks when a trusted adult is present. Doesn't want to share and says, mine. Just beginning to say, mine. 13 to 18.
Yeah, I'm gonna say pretty young.
The next one is pulled between needing to demonstrate independence and still feeling dependent, still cautious around unfamiliar adults, will play with a new adult in the presence of a familiar person, says no and likes to do things without help. What age range?
1924.
18.
I think I heard a 19 to 24, and that's it. Bingo. This one demonstrates different moods, distress and excitement.
4 to 6.
Think little bitty. What'd you say?
4 to 6. Yeah.
1 to 3. Yeah. The next one displays independent behavior, refuses food, resists naps, may have some tantrums. There's some anxiety there. Communicates preferences for certain people and toys. Communicates discomfort when fearful or stressed. What do you think?
18 to 24.
10 to 12. That independent behavior usually a lot of times corresponds when they're beginning to walk. Remember, they're getting more independent away from the family. The next one wants independence. We're getting down to less to choose from. Wants independence but still needs security of parents, needs predictable routines, expresses feelings through language and pretend play, establishes self as separate from parents by saying, no, me do it. May display shyness around strangers in unfamiliar settings and situations. What do you think? There's only 3 left.
25 to 30.
There you go. 25 to 30. The next one shows fear, anger, and disgust, distinguishes between familiar and unfamiliar adults, that beginning stranger anxiety.
7 to 9.
4 to 6. And the last but not least, displays fear of separation. Is clearly attached to familiar caregivers. 7 to 9 months. Resists pressure to do something. So, I bring this up because I think it's a good thing to ask parents, what do you think your child is trying to learn through this anxiety at this age? So, on the first one, 31 to 36 months, what's a child trying to learn when they're recognizing and responding to other children's feelings? Empathy?
Empathy.
Other people have feelings? Yeah. Do we want them to learn that? Yes. Does that present itself with a little anxiety sometimes? If someone's crying and the other child starts crying along with them? Okay, how about 13 to 18 months? Doesn't want to share and says, mine. What's that child learning through that anxiety? Learning that...
Sense of self.
Exactly, sense of self, and that people have possessions. They might not all be mine. How about, the next one says no and likes to do things without help? What's that child learning? Independence, exactly. Demonstrates different moods. What's that child learning through this anxiety?
How to get help?
Exactly, that caregivers will respond. Yeah. So you get the picture that this anxiety, that anxiety in itself is not a bad thing. It really propels the child to reach out and learn the next step. So let's look at some medical conditions that can mimic anxiety. What are you thinking? Or
Low blood
medicine?
sugar.
Huh?
Low blood sugar.
Okay.
For me.
Medical conditions or medicines that could mimic anxiety. You need some help?
Are you talking about specific, like?
ADHD,
Yeah,
maybe?
I was gonna say bipolar.
Benadryl, like if a child has had
Exactly.
Steroids.
Inhalers, steroids.
Withdrawal.
Yeah, oh, that's the first one we've had that today. Yeah, but exactly. Anything else? How about autism? How about those kiddos with sensory processing problems? How about those kiddos that have chronic pain? That internal stress that presents itself as anxiety. Reflux?
Gastrointestinal.
Exactly, yeah.
very-
Constipation, all
disturbance.
that.
All that
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
Sleeping issues.
Exactly.
Eczema.
Lifestyles will move, so we could really probably think of a lot of our families that have the medical piece of this that could mimic anxiety. And how about lifestyles or situations that these families are living in? What could mimic anxiety there? First thing I always think of these kiddos in foster. Moving from homeless.
Divorce.
Exactly.
Too little sleep.
Little sleep, too little sleep.
Too much sleep.
There's never too much sleep. This I put up here because this is pretty much the first question I always ask. Because sleep is the basis of pretty much our core existence, isn't it? That, I mean, the basics. So, too little sleep, lifestyles of no routines whatsoever, right? That there's no predictability, the child doesn't know what's gonna happen next. I think about childcares where the provider is changing every other week. They don't have consistent care. Or back to the divorce where the child stays here 1 week or 1 day and dad and people are coming in and out. Nannies coming in and out too. So we can see that there are a lot of situations that we can help parents understand that also mimic anxiety as well. Some of these will have some resources to help. Some of these we're going to just have to help the parents and the families work through the anxiety. And that will be a big piece of what we're going to talk about is working through. So, another thing I think that I want to talk about is temperament traits. And you have another sheet of paper that has the temperament traits on there. There are 9 temperament traits. And there was a point in my career or life that I thought, there are certain temperament traits that really are geared for anxiety. But as I've been working longer and longer in the field, I will tell you that all temperament traits can be susceptible to anxiety because of all these other elements and relationships and lifestyles and medicines and things going. We oftentimes associate anxiety with these low approach kiddos that have a hard time joining in. But if allowed to work with their temperament and help to coach through those situations and allowed to take those baby steps entering situations, that there is really no research that these kiddos are more apt to have anxiety than any other kid. Because when you're pregnant, you see everybody else is pregnant. When you have a new car, you have everybody else that has a new car, that same car. When you're working on anxiety, you have tons of people on your caseload with anxiety and family members and, all that kind of, they just kind of flock to you. I will tell you that I have 2 family members that they are very high approach and they have very high activity level and they have very high anxiety. So you can see that it really, and there's all sorts of people that I could pigeonhole in these temperament traits that have anxiety. So it's just how do we teach to those temperament traits and to help parents be aware that there are 9 different temperament traits that we know of that have been studied. And I do a whole day workshop on temperament traits, so we're not going to talk about them. It's fascinating. I love it. But you can go to this website, and I know I've given this to a lot of people, and I use it a lot. The parents will put in their temperament trait. That's a set of questions you put answer, and then their child's temperament traits, and then it gives you the parents' strategies on how to work with their child. It's pretty cool. I put in a lot of mock families to see what it comes up with, and it's really good. I know this organization, it is great. It costs $10 and I'm too cheap, so I haven't ever done it, but I'll give it to you in case you want to use it. Well, I really like the first one just fine, so there's been no reason for me to go on and but there's some really good books if you want. I can tell you Turecki and some other good books that talk about temperament too. But I think that's a good resource for parents to understand who their children are.
Well, I think it's nice because they can really kind of take a look at what their temperaments are, because you've talked before, there's often a mismatch, and that's okay.
The goodness of fit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes we're very opposite of what our kiddos are, and sometimes we're very much alike, right? Mm-hmm. For sure. On another sheet that you have, it talks about the different anxiety disorders that can be diagnosed. And for our age kiddo, we use the DCO-3, and it crosswalks with this diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. I'm not going to go a lot into this because most of our kiddos will not get a diagnosis even though we know they have some anxiety. And I'm also not going to talk about meds today, and I have had kiddos, and as you have too, I'm sure, that have benefited from some medicines. They're not well regulated for our age kiddos, but there's some like blood pressure medicines and some of those other ones that really have been helpful. Obviously, they're going to be a last resort. And
Becky, can I mention one resource?
You bet.
That segues in that I just got out of?
Sure, I'd love it.
There's a company, and I've just heard about it through a counseling agency called Gentle Minds, and they are at a point where they're doing genetic testing for meds, they always do a swab, mouth swab, for some of our kiddos who are young, or have to change from one ADHD medicine or one mental health medicine to another. There's a lot of research behind it, and this
Gentle Mind?
Gentle Mind, and it's through Dr. Menninger's practice.
Okay.
And it's free right now. It is, they were using another company and they weren't happy with it for one reason or another. I said, how long did it take to get results? 5 days. I didn't talk to her about the evidence behind it, but obviously this practice is supporting it. It looks at your specific liver and your enzymes and your metabolic makeup, and can help guide the correct medication for some of these early anxiety disorders. And the cool thing she was telling me is that, you know how new pharmaceutical companies come out and they give free
Yeah,
samples
yeah,
forever, and
yeah.
then boom. They are doing it free. They will bill you, they will bill the family for the swab, but you don't have to make payments. It's kind of like our and it's something
Interesting.
pretty cool. So Gentle Mind, and maybe there's several practices that are referring there, but I know Dr. Menninger. So
We'll have to look that up. Thanks. Thanks, Lori.
The one that's like 110 or is it like?
Yeah, there's several in there. He's just the big man. I can't remember his name.
So you can, thanks, Lori.
Yeah.
You can use that reference guide, that the sheet that I gave you, but really to highlight just one point is that to be diagnosed with separation anxiety disorder, it has to last at least a month. Phobia has to be at least 4 months before you can get a diagnosis. Social anxiety disorder, at least 4 months. This is all on that sheet too. Generalized anxiety disorder, excessive anxiety and worry has to be at least 6 months. And anxiety disorder, NOS, this is the diagnosis mostly used for kiddos 2 and under. Causes distress or leads the child to avoid activities or settings associated with the fear. Occurs during 2 or more activities or within 2 or more relationships. So it's pervasive, it's uncontrollable at least some of the time, and it impairs the child or family's functioning or development. It persists. So those are some things to know a little bit about the disorders as they are diagnosed. But we are going to really talk about more generic before the diagnosis. And these kiddos might move on to diagnosis, don't get me wrong, and they might move on to meds, don't get me wrong there, because I've seen the benefit of both too. We're going to look at anxiety as a security system, and I like to look at it because it gives me a visual of what anxiety looks like. So the security system begins with the alert, and the alert stage of the security system is instantaneous. It happens in about 0.02 of a second. It's faster than a thought. It's really, really important. It's survival, right? If I see a snake right in front of me, I don't want to have to think, is that snake poisonous? I just want to jump back and get the heck out of the way of the snake. We all use a little energy to scan for danger. Some of our kiddos are scanning all the time. And this stage of alert takes over their whole center stage. It takes over their existence. They can't do other things because of this state of alert that they're in. But most of the children with low anxiety let the caretakers take over the lookout duties. My parents are on guard. My caregiver is on guard, so I don't have to be. What's that look like when you don't have consistent caregivers? The alarm stage of the security system. When there is a real danger, a healthy alarm activates us to do just what we need to do. Fight, plan, hide, run for safety, call for help. When there's no danger, the alarm does not need to ring. If it rings anyway, the result is tension and anxiety, agitation, avoidance, rumination, and distress. Alarms are not able to discriminate between a dangerous bear, or a bear in a cage, or bear on a book. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off when the tea kettle boils and the steam comes up. It doesn't know the difference between the fire smoke from a fire, or the steam. So we can see where kids get stuck there. The alert and the alarm systems are both in the lower part of the brain. They're the survival part of the brain. So what we're trying to do is help kiddos and help parents move to the thinking part of the brain, the higher parts of the brain. So assessment belongs to the thinking brain. Assessment tells the brain to either turn up the fear reaction or turn it off. Children with low anxiety can put their alarm on hold so they can perform a good assessment. Is this really dangerous? Oh, that bear's in a cage, I'm safe. Oh, it's just on a picture. Oh, my dad's here to keep me safe. Without assessment, the alarm stays activated. Fear and anxiety stay activated. Then the alarm has the last word. The alarm hijacks the assessment if it's ringing too loud. So alert, alarms, and assessments all work together to provide speed and accuracy, whereas the all clear signal, where we all hope to get, fear, anxiety, and worry serve a vital purpose in our lives, but we need a way to shut it off, these alarms, when the danger is past, or after we have discovered it to be a false alarm. Does that give you a visual of what the anxiety system looks like, the security system looks like? Aren't they sweet? They're sweet little chicks. Well, I think this is my favorite book. This one, right here. And you can get it, I've listened to it a lot of times. I downloaded it from the library. It's on your list of resources too. So I've listened to it a bunch of times. The guy reading it is rather soothing too, so if you need just some blah, blah, blah to soothe, it's good. Dr. Cohen did this wonderful experiment when he was a younger child, and then took the theory of it into work with families as he was older. So I'm going to read you a little piece of this. Once the baby chicks were a few days old, I gently held each chick on its side and stared into one little eye, trying to imagine how a hawk would look at a chicken. After I let go, it stayed immobilized for about a minute. Then it popped up and walked around again, demonstrating the cycle of fear and recovery. In the next experiment, I immobilized 2 chicks at once. They both stayed down much longer than either one did alone. About 5 minutes. Then I let one chick wander around the box while I immobilized another one. It popped up after just a few seconds. My conclusion. A frightened chicken looks to the second chicken to see if it's safe. When the second chicken is walking around happily, it seems to signal the first chicken that all is well. That second chicken isn't scared and hasn't been eaten, so it must be safe for me to get up and walk around. When the second chicken is immobilized, the first one seems to think, I don't see a hawk. But that second chicken must see one, since it hasn't gotten up yet. I better stay where I am. So I'm moving down a little bit. Years later, as I began to work with families, I wondered why some parents have such trouble reassuring their anxious children. My old second chicken experiments gave me a clue to this mystery. Children who are slightly anxious just need a brief word of reassurance or comfort from mom or dad. The parent is the unafraid second chicken. Children who are highly anxious often ignore reassurance, or it makes them even more upset. Sometimes that's because they have anxious parents. When these children look around, they see an anxious parent, a scared second chicken who confirms that their view of the world is a dangerous place. Even when parents are not anxious, children with high anxiety may not notice the relaxed person in front of them. That's because anxiety can lead people to see the world through a lens of danger. It's as if they always see a scared second chicken. Bless you. like like chickens immobilized in front of a mirror. Whether their parents are anxious or not, children with high anxiety often remain frozen in that feeling. I started encouraging parents of anxious children to stop their endless attempts at reassurance. After all, the unafraid second chicken does not soothe the immobilized chicken's fears with logic, words, or behavior modification. I developed a technique I call the second chicken question. Would you look in my eyes and see whether or not I'm scared? This draws them out of their frozen fear and helps them find security. It works much better than there's no need to be scared. I think that is just a sweet way of looking at the reassurance that these kids need and families need, parents need, but also that we have to help families work through anxiety and not go around it. The most important emotional accomplishment of the toddler years is reconciling the urge to become competent and self-reliant with the longing for parental love and protection. It's hard for parents, though, to know how tightly to hold on and how hard to push through that anxiety. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. I'm going to read this scenario. And then on the next two slides, I want you to circle what your reactions would be to this scenario. Charlotte is almost 3 years old, and she attends a PAT play group with her mother. The first day, she waltzed right in and began to play in the kitchen area. She appeared to have a good time, other than a few minor confrontations with another toddler that wanted to play in the kitchen with her. The next time that her mother suggested that they go to playgroup, Charlotte repeatedly said that she did not want to go and threw a huge tantrum. She clung to her mom at playgroup and buried her head. Every time Mom tried to move, Charlotte screamed. It felt like all the other mothers were staring at her. So on the next two slides on your handouts, the first one says some likely possibilities, and then there's a next one after that. Circle the likely, how you would react to Charlotte if you were her parent, if you were her mom. Circle as many as you think you would use. And give me a heads up when you're done so I know to move on. Okay, I see most heads up. So we're going to go back to that in just a minute after we talk about some parenting styles, parent-child interaction styles. We're going to talk about the overparenting style, or being too controlling, and modeling anxious behaviors. The overparenting or the controlling, the too talkative parent. The too talkative parent offers a worried and anxious child a lot of information, or continually revisits the stressful situations in conversation. They can fuel rather than calm the anxiety. So, Charlotte, we're going to get home from playgroup, and let's call Daddy. Let's call him and talk about your experience. Oh, Daddy, I had a terrible time. Oh, Charlotte had such a terrible time, Daddy. She cried and cried and cried, and it was miserable. She was so scared. Do you see where I'm going with this? Not quite so over, not quite getting to the point of helping the child resolve the conflict, giving a lot of information and really reliving it, stressful. That's one example of a too talkative parent. I love social stories. Do not get me wrong. I love social stories. I suggest them all the time to parents. Some kiddos do not do well with social stories, and you probably experienced that. It is rewiring that stress. They probably need brevity versus the, we're going to talk about it more. So really to be considerate of each and the temperament traits and the family and thinking, okay, should I recommend a social story or not? Or at least have the conversation with the parent who really knows that child, whether that is going to bring on more anxiety. Are we wiring more anxiety? I had just yesterday an example of, I have a mom who has severe anxiety. She can't go out of the house, she can't drive. Well, she goes out of the house, but she's at the mercy of someone driving her. She has severe anxiety attacks. Her daughter also is showing some signs of anxiety. So she works so hard, and we'll talk about the bravery ladder in just a minute, of getting her child in Mother's Day out. She can only let her stay a little while at a day, but it's baby steps at a time. And the little girl is really doing pretty well there most of the time. Someone came in to do the ASQ. This little girl didn't know her from diddly squat and was very apprehensive about doing anything with this new lady, right? So the new lady called Mom saying, I think you need to do a social story with this little girl. And I was like, no, not this one, not this one. Because doing that social story is just going to rehash. We want to rehash the success of, whoa, you really listened to your teacher and you followed you did whatever she asked, whatever it is. So just be aware of social stories. I promise you, I use them all the time. I think they're so helpful 90% of the time. But there are some of the kiddos that I think were just being too talkative. Okay, moving on to the intrusive parent. Studies show that parents of anxious children tend to be more intrusive than parents of less anxious children. I'll give you an example, and I know you guys have all had this. I was at a house coach reading, and I can't remember who it was, and I still can't. The house looked like a little preschool setting. Mom was a teacher, great gal, good intentions. We were talking about whatever was going on at the time, and this little guy was trying to build Legos, and she was, you need to put that yellow one on the bottom. It's bigger. It's going to give it a better structure. That's leaning there, buddy. You better fix it there. You've all had those intrusive parents, right? That it's like, just let them be. Just let them be. Let them work through that, because I had anxiety just listening to that parent say, intrude so much. So there's that interaction style that seems to pair with kiddos that have anxiety. And then there's the over-reassuring parent. This is the parent that is often anxious herself and tends to be over-reassuring. This is a form of attempted control over a child's emotions. So going to story time at the library, the mom kept saying, oh, don't worry, honey, you're going to be fine. You're going to see your friends. You're going to love it. We're going to hear some really great stories. That librarian is so good. Don't worry, honey, you're going to just be great. You're going to love it so much. And the kid might be thinking, well, maybe there is something to worry about. Mom's worried about this. I mean, she keeps talking about it at least. Maybe I'm not going to be okay. Why does she keep telling me talking about this? Maybe there's something I don't know. So the over-reassuring parent is also one that's typical with a family that has anxiety. And then we have parents that also model anxiety, the anxious parent, and we all know those too. There's a number of recent studies on parenting anxious children that have explored what we call experiential avoidance, and you don't need to know that term, but it's the tendency to avoid negative internal experiences themselves. So the natural instinct of an anxious parent is to avoid all anxiety. If my child cries because she has to go to sleep or to bed or sit in a high chair, then I'm just going to avoid it because it stresses me because she's stressed. The natural instinct of an anxious parent would be to remove the child from all anxiety-provoking situations. By taking care of their child's stress, parents can avoid their own stress. and make themselves feel better and calmer. And then there's the depressed parent. You know, at least anxious parents are involved. They might be overly involved, but the depressed parent seems that they can't even engage with their child or care for them in ways that ensure a good, warm attachment. These children often show signs of depression and are withdrawn, finding no pleasure in toys. They're irritable, they're sad across situation. This depression can surface as early as 2 or before. And in later years, this child's often seen as the good child, the good kid that, but we're seeing that depression and anxiety really aren't so different. Children depressed as preschoolers are four times more likely to experience anxiety or disorder at school age. So it's almost that continual circle of anxiety and depression, anxiety and depression. All this really emphasizes is the role of the parent in the child's mental health, right? And we also have to get parents resources and help. And then we move on to the short-fused parent. We all know those two, and I think at times I've probably been one of each of these areas of parenting interactions. But the example I have is, and I've changed the name to protect the innocent. Arthur is 18 months. His dad loves soccer. His dad loves soccer. And they signed up for a Tot and Daddy soccer class, which is really just hurting something. I don't know if it's soccer, but Dad was really enthused about going, and Arthur was not so enthused. He clung to Dad's legs the entire time, and Dad was calling, "You brat, you just go out there and do it. Buck up, buddy, you can do it." We all know those kind of parents that are just going to push their kids through it. Those kiddos, this dad in particular had Skittles in the diaper bag, and Arthur really loved Skittles, so he gave him a Skittle, and Arthur did go out and kick the ball one time. He looked miserable from what Mom said, but he kicked the ball and came back and screamed the rest of the time. So anxiety, you can white knuckle through it, but our whole goal is to help kids enjoy the experience so they can learn something from it. So those are the parents that have a role in anxious families. We're all just doing the best that we can do as parents, and we know that with our parents too. But our goal is to try to be an attentive parent. Parenting is influenced by our history and our temperaments, and the way we were parented. It's really just a wonderful time for us to help parents have a better relationship with their children, anxiety or not. So attentive parents accept the situation as it is. They accept their child's temperament, and they accept the anxious situation. And then they teach the skills needed to help their child move through anxiety and perhaps help themselves move through that anxiety. So accepting what is and accepting their children's personalities and their personalities, and then teaching through it. Dr. Becky Bailey on Conscious Discipline talks a lot about It Is As It Is. That's another great resource. It's in the back of your handouts too, Conscious Discipline. So how do we help parents find a balance? So many of these books that I've pulled together have used this strategy, and I just think it's a great gateway of helping parents, and we're in such wonderful situations of helping coach parents as well. And it's just 5 minutes of play a day. It's taken from PCIT therapy training, and Debbie, I know you know, and Kathy, you as well. This training, parent-child interaction therapy, is a kind of therapy that is very child-directed. They bring the parents into a clinic and have them play with their child. They also have little probes in their ears that they're coaching these these parents along the way to help teach their kids. But it's as simple as this. The child gets to do what the child gets to do or wants to do. There's no questions asked. You're not asking what the color is, or you're not asking or telling the child, oh, you need to put that Lego on a certain way. It's really just imitating what the child is doing and reflecting your child's feelings. Oh, you built that tower and that is frustrating when it falls over. Your face looks like this. It's specific praise in that it's not, oh, you're a good boy for doing that. It is, whoa, that tower is big. Teaching specific praise, reflecting feelings, it's no teaching. It's just play. And I know that we've talked about this at quad meetings all the time about how do we get parents just to play. It seems so simple to most of us. And I think this is a great strategy of, we go in talking about, okay, your whole day's routine. Can we find 5 minutes a day? And there's remarkable evidence that shows it really helps kiddos with anxiety. So Dr. Becky Bailey talks about genuine encounter moments, very, very similar thing, 5 minutes a day. But the genuine encounter moments are being truly present with your child. And when I first did the Conscious Discipline workshop a million years ago, we talked about parents playing with their kids as they were reading the paper or watching TV or flipping through a magazine. Now it's the parents doing this or the iPad. So how do we help parents understand the importance of just play? I have a handout that I got at the Med Center, and it is, I can't remember the title of it, but it's just Child and Play or something, and it gives some strategies on helping parents just play with their kids, and that'll be on the FTP. I forgot to bring it today. Also, you can look at Conscious Discipline. I'm sure there's some ways to talk about that, and it's also in, I think, both these books, Growing Up Brave and The Opposite of Worry, just the power of play. Also, the bravery ladder, that family that I was talking about, that mom has severe anxiety, and the child has some signs of anxiety. Mom's really doing a good job of helping her work through the anxiety. I use this bravery ladder without the words. I have a bravery ladder for mom and a bravery ladder for the child, and we talk about those little steps. I'll use the example of a little family that I'm co-treating with, Paula Tharp, and the mom has severe anxiety, no doubt. And the 2-year-old runs the house. Let's just put it out there, and I know you've had those too, and it's just not a pretty sight. So 3-year-old, almost to transition. Well, she would be transitioning, however, mom had too much anxiety to go to the transition meeting or to let her child go to school. We'll back up and see how we can make that happen. But still on the bottle. And what I will tell you is anxiety is one of the most resistant things in the world. It feels almost like when you are in that state of anxiety, especially after it's been wired after 20 or 30 years, it feels pretty comfortable. And like we were talking about the chicken, this mom sees the world as danger, right? Danger. Plus, when she does not offer the bottle to the child, what's the child do? Tantrums. What's that do? It brings up that internal stress. So, my first visit, and it could be, I won't be there to see mom really make a lot of change, but she's making some changes with her child, which is wonderful. The first visit, we talked, and I thought we had a lovely conversation, very open to talking, and Mom would be like, well, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to do this. Well, I came back, and because anxiety is so resistant, she really, and she was very honest about it, she said, I just heard you tell me what a terrible mother I was. Well, I very deliberately, I thought, not well enough, I guess, tried to really focus on the strengths and the positives. She couldn't hear that. She's only seeing through her filter of danger, right? You're telling me what a terrible mom I am. Anyway, she ended up being able to put a little bit of water, like a half a cup of water in the bottle with the milk. Woohoo. We're working up the bravery ladder, right? Because on that visit when I was first there, nope, she won't like it. She'll have a tantrum, she won't like it. She wouldn't even hear it. So we're planting the seeds to grow on the bravery ladder with both the mom, perhaps the dad, and the child. So Charlotte going into the PAT playroom, we might have to do a social story if that would be helpful for that particular kid, of how are we going to make those baby steps of entering the playroom to make you feel comfortable and at ease so you can proceed with perhaps playing more or playing longer or whatever. So the bravery ladder is something that is referenced, I think, in the opposite of worry, and I use it a lot, and it's just really helpful. Other calming tools. Oh, before we look at this, flip back to the bullets that you circled and see which ones that you would what would you tell Charlotte? What would you do with Charlotte in those scenarios? What are some?
I've always been the type of parent that does the prep work. So I would be the one that would more than likely let her know what to expect. But with the change, I wouldn't say how she would handle it. I wouldn't tell her how she's going to behave. I would just say this is what's going to be there, what to expect.
Yes. Okay. I agree completely, and I probably would tell her how to handle it. Mommy's going to be right here, and we're going to get right through it. We're going to stay for 20 minutes or whatever, if that be the case. Because you also want to focus on what's the solution going to be. What can I wire about that? That she's going to go in there thinking, okay, but my mom's going to be my second chicken. I got it. I can handle it. I can do it.
I'm gonna get those chicks and try that.
Are you?
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
It's kind of mean.
Yeah,
Would it work? You know, would the chicks do the same thing for me?
I know.
Makes you wonder.
Is it PETA approved? No chicks have been injured during this presentation. Okay, the next thing that I would also, because I'm going to presume that Charlotte is precocious. She's only 3 really, but the last one, if she was very cognitively ahead of the game, probably a little bit older than 3, but could be. I mean, we have some 3-year-olds that could handle it. I would ask her what she was going to do to make things easier, too. So, good. Okay. Other strategies. Belly breathing is a wonderful strategy. What we're going to do with these tools are use it throughout the day before the anxiety is flooding, before it's up here. So we're going to help kiddos and parents understand what it feels like, what your body feels like when it's calm, and really talk about this. I tried to video Owen. He's 2.5, my grandson, when he was here, and he was having a little anxiety about me videoing him, so I didn't, because I avoided the anxiety, because I'm a grandparent and I can. But he was really cute. After diaper change, he was just in his little bare tummy and had a teddy bear on his tummy and was trying to raise it up to the ceiling. So he's lying on the bed trying to get that teddy bear up to the ceiling and down. Up to the ceiling and down. What's it feel like? Oh, it feels calm, doesn't it, Owen? Yeah. The balloon, Dr. Becky Bailey talks about the balloon. It's also more about breathing. We want to get the breath up to the thinking part of the brain. When we're all stressed, it goes to the primal part of the brain, our fight or flight. So we're trying to get more oxygen to the thinking part of the brain, the balloon. Making lemonade. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze that lemonade. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze that lemon. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze that lemon. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Let it go. Squeeze that lemonade. Squeeze that lemon. Let it go. Tucker the Turtle, another great website for social emotional development. Tucker the Turtle is a little bit older, but you're smart. You can tweak it down to some of our ages too. Relax your face. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch your face. Relax. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch your face. How's it feel? Oh, your face feels nice and soft. Oh, you're relaxed. Stretching like a puppy after a nap. Tree blowing, all these, not all these, but most of them are in this book, Growing Up Brave, and there's a lot more for older kids. I just put some that are applicable that I've used for our kids. Tree blowing, mom or dad can be the wind blowing, and the little guy can be the tree. You can't let that wind blow you. You got to keep your hands tight. You can't let that wind blow you. Okay, the wind's gone. Oh, the wind's coming. They love that one. The Smelling the Flower, Dr. Becky Bailey. And this one, Smell the Flower. Smell the flower. And have lots of pinwheels because it is a messy, spitting thing. One that I don't have on here and I really need to put it on here is, while you're just hanging around with your kiddos, to sit close to them on the couch. Becky Bailey talks about this a lot, and just doing some deep belly breathing. This is what it feels like to be calm. And you can even feel, as we're doing it in this room, it'll bring down the energy level. You don't even need to be touching, but what a wonderful way just to have that connection and touch. Becky Bailey and I Love You Rituals, also on your resource list, talks about eye contact and touch, doing finger plays, that you're looking with your child, looking at your child doing these motions and lovely little rhymes that are very soothing as well. So those are all really good things to help before the storm. So kiddos and families and parents, these are helpful for parents too to know, oh, this is what it feels like. A lot of us do prayer or meditation or yoga or some of those things as adults, but isn't it great to be able to help your kids learn how to do that at this stage of development? So here are all the resources. I have several good books that I love for our age kiddos, and it's the Way I Feel books. There's When I Miss You, When I Feel Scared, When I Feel Sad, When I Feel Angry. So those are some other ones that I really recommend as well. They're on your list. And I want to show you a short video. As kiddos get older, and what is probably the most successful treatment with anxiety disorder is cognitive behavioral therapy. And this little video that we're going to watch, I'm not saying that you'd show a kid this, but it just shows how we can acknowledge our emotions, but we don't have to be our emotions. So you'll see he understands that his fear is this little dragon. So we got to find it first. I don't have it up anymore.
I don't know if this is right. Oh, jeez. Wait, she's going? We'll never see her again. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. That won't do you good. She can't hear you. Why did she stop feeding us? We're out of food. We're never gonna eat again. Mama! You don't have the flu shot. Only Mom will protect you.
Go have fun, Tom.
Oh, jeez, don't.
Hey, come play.
He will laugh at you.
Or don't.
First day of school. You're never gonna come back.
Please don't leave me. It's gonna be okay, love.
School of death, I tell ya. School of death. Oh, jeez.
I'm too young to die. What? I have a stomachache. You do?
Oh, my head.
And a headache. Oh, my beautiful boy.
She called you beautiful. Everyone is gonna laugh at you. Oh, jeez.
Are you afraid? Yeah. W says I'll never see you again. Oh, well. Is W a big, fast car gonna run you over, honk, honk? No. Oh, well then he must be a big tornado gonna blow you away. No. Oh, well what is W? My worry dragon. Oh, so all those fears you have belong to your worry dragon. Uh-huh. So they're not your fears at all? They belong to him? Huh. I guess. So there isn't really anything for you to worry about. Hey, my stomachache is gone. Cool. No, Ma, I guess there isn't. Go on, have fun. I'll see you later after school.
Hey, you want to play soccer baseball with us?
Yeah, I would.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh, my head. Oh, jeez.
Thank you, guys. If you have questions, I'm here, and really thank you for being my second chicken. This was a breeze with you guys.
Thanks, Becky.